Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode number 4, at least I think it's number 4, of Xbox One-on-One. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here. This is obviously, if you're new to the channel, this is, yes, an Xbox program, but it's a little different than many of the shows or the live shows that I do weekly. We do occasionally talk about gaming news. We do occasionally even review games like I did with Pong Soul last week, where we talked about The Medium by Bloober Team, where we give our impressions and, of course, our end review. But normally, this is a new program to the weekly shows that I wanted to do to highlight up-and-coming games for the Xbox Series X and S. And we have two really big ones to talk about today. And I did some recording. I got some Hivebuster DLC in the background playing, so you can check out. If you have not seen that DLC, you're going to get at least an hour and 10 minutes of it. And first of all, let me welcome the cog that keeps the Xbox Factor podcast and Xbox One-on-One going each and every week. Please welcome Zemi the Brave.
Each and every week, unless there is a scary game that
There
you're
you
talking
go.
about, or that you need to play to really be on the show, and then I just won't be there. But yeah, man, dude, I'm super excited to be here. That intro that you just played, maybe you played it last week, did you?
Yes.
Okay, so I wasn't here, so I didn't see it, and I was like, "Wow, look at that! It's a new intro. That looks so cool. Why didn't Boom tell me that he's gonna play the new intro?"
I can't believe I didn't show you that already. I thought you saw that already.
No, I hadn't, but it looks really good. And shout out to what's his name again?
Dinero Panero.
Panero.
He does a real deal. Yes,
yeah,
he is.
He does a great job on that, man. But yeah, dude, I'm super excited to be here. And this Hivebuster video that you're showing is really good. I really enjoyed playing through that myself.
Yes, it is probably some of the best DLC to come to Xbox in a very long time. Obviously, as you can tell, now mind you, this was recorded in 1080p, folks. This wasn't even recorded in 4K because obviously the Elgatos they that's what they record on, and that's what we're able to put. And you can imagine that if you're playing this on your Xbox Series X, it looks absolutely insane. This is, Zemi and I were talking prior to going live, and obviously this is not a really part of the topics, but I thought we'd bring it up as we wait for people to kind of file in before we get into the games we're going to talk about. I'm hoping that what we saw in this DLC from the Coalition in Hivebusters is a new ideology for Microsoft as a video game business. And I say that with the idea that these smaller, Gears 5 came out and it's a big to do. Gears 5, I thought, again, my favorite is still always going to be 2 for a lot of reasons, but I have to say that Gears 5 checked a huge amount of boxes for me, and I was very, very happy to have beaten that game. I twice. I played through it twice, and I think I'm missing 1 or 2 collectibles, which I'm pissed about. But I'm hoping that with many of the big games we have coming out, for instance, like Halo Infinite coming out. Now, we did hear that the leak that someone posted about side stories being in the game at one point or another could be considered something small little set pieces like this, where they're 3 to 6 hour DLCs. I would love that. And I think the community would as well. Zemi, you had a good thought. You said this kind of DLC could definitely keep people subscribed to Game Pass outside of the games that are in there. And why is that?
Yeah, I mean, just the way I look at it, we talked about this before the show, of course, but the way that I kind of look at it is, it's just little snippets of content that just nobody has any ideas, is coming. And it's kind of like the Loot Crate effect of, I think a big contributing factor of why that service did so well whenever it first came out, that you don't exactly always know what you're going to get, right? Like this Hivebuster DLC came out, and it wasn't really, it wasn't really advertised, a lot, right? It wasn't really marketed a ton, and it just kind of came out on a whim, and the community was so excited for it. And I think if they, continue making, content like this, single player content, maybe even multiplayer content that's similar to this, or, whatever, and have it be that surprise, it might lead to the same factor that Loot Crate had, along the lines of, subscribers are going to stay subscribed because they never know what is coming or what month they may get this special Halo Infinite story DLC kind of thing, right? Which I think is really, really interesting. It's fun, and yeah, I for sure like it. I would love to see Xbox continue doing content like this. The little bite-size DLC stories. I really, really enjoyed this for Gears 5. I hope that they do another one for Gears 5.
Yes.
Maybe they will, probably, maybe not. I don't know. But even if they don't do this again for Gears 5, I definitely want to see this repeated for future franchises. I mean, we're talking Fable, right?
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
how
That's a good point.
amazing
Yeah.
would it be? For sure. Halo, all sorts. I mean, even potentially Avowed, or Elder Scrolls 6, whenever that releases. I just think like content like this that you really don't know is coming, it doesn't really have a lot of information behind it, they don't really spend a whole lot of time marketing, is really, really exciting, because it's like a little surprise during the month for Game Pass subscribers.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll say this. This is what I think what I appreciated about this DLC more than any of the other DLCs that come before it, like you had in Gears 2 and 3, was the fact that these are relatively unknown characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a story built around the trio here, and it's what I want to see Microsoft continue to do. And like I said, I hope that when we get Halo Infinite later on, hopefully they do launch it like I was predicting on November 15th of 2021 to celebrate the 20th anniversary of both Master Chief and the actual franchise. That we do get, because supposedly it's a 10-year plan for Halo Infinite, and that's a little little risky to say that, because obviously, are we ever going to get a Halo 6 or 7?
Mm-hmm.
And we might not, but if they can incorporate these kinds of small stories within the open arcing continuation of what Halo Infinite becomes, I think that would be great, not only for us as gamers, but the franchise as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and going off road a little bit here, you mentioned how, Halo Infinite is apparently a 10-year long project. I don't know how much of that I believe, I'm going to be honest, because we hear that a lot, and rarely does it ever come true. Then again, for Xbox, what they've shown us, these last few years, I mean, it could definitely be true. But I am still a little bit hesitant on how long they are going to continue supporting new content and stuff for Halo. I mean, because I think we heard that with Destiny 1 whenever that first came out.
Yep, sure did.
Of course, that didn't pan out, and I think we've heard it for a few other games as well, and it just never really panned out from at least the games that I've heard of.
Yeah, again, it's a little risky throwing yourself out there for that we're going to do a 10-year thing. But with that said, you never know, and obviously they're I'm hoping that I know that people hate to hear games as a service. That you've ruined my my chocolate by putting peanut butter in there. How dare you? But I think that what I would like to see happen is a continued story. Of course, there's going to be an end. There's going to be an end game, so to speak, to Halo Infinite. Now, whether that is with the death of Atriox or the actual fight with his lieutenant first before you get to the big bad, and it winds up playing out like a trilogy over the course of the next few years, I don't know what they're going to do. I just want the game to be good, and I think that I think we're going to get it. Definitely going to get it. But you know what? Let's get into why we're here. Yeah. Now, again, previewing these games that we're doing, some are going to be AAA blockbusters. Eventually, we're going to talk about Halo Infinite when there's some new information to talk about. But today, we're talking about two smaller titles. And the game that I picked that we'll get to second, I want Zemi to go first on this, is The Ascent by Neon Giant Games. This is Diablo style. Asymmetric, 4-player co-op cyberpunk RPG with twin stick shooter. It's a lot in the mouth there for sure. I do have 4 minutes of footage that I pulled directly from Neon Giant's YouTube. And I will throw it up on the screen when we get to it so you can see exactly why you should be excited about this game. But I want to talk about what Zemi had picked. And I didn't know nothing about this game until you sent me the show notes. And I watched a couple of videos on it. And I'm like, okay, now this looks interesting. Now, it may not be everyone's game, but it certainly looks like it's telling a very unique story that I think it will grab people. Why don't you take it away and tell us what game you picked?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think it is going to be a game for everyone. But for this week, I chose The Last Stop from Veritable State. It's a third-person narrative adventure game set in present-day London. The story follows 3 main characters whose worlds collide amid a supernatural crisis. Role-playing as these 3 characters, you will make choices to shape you will make choices in your conversations that shape the world as a whole, and will change the story. Each of these playable characters sound really, really fleshed out, which I'm very, very excited about. And they all seem to have very strong motives and backgrounds. The 3 characters that you're going to be playing as in this game are Donna, a spaced out high schooler who feels trapped by her stifling home life and overprotected big sister. John, an overworked middle-aged single dad burdened with debt and the pressures of being a only parent. And Mina, a ruthlessly ambitious professional who struggles to find the same satisfaction with her family that she does in the thrill of her work. So all of it, characters from different, structures in society. The Last Stop is also fully voice acted with several hours of dialogue from a talented cast. I really find this extremely interesting, as Veritable State's last game, Virginia, had no voice acting at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So, not a tremendous amount of detail here, but whenever I do see this game, I cannot help but be excited. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this franchise, Boom, with Veritable State, with Virginia, but their last and only other title, Virginia, was an absolutely amazing game made on a really, really tight budget.
I think I might have played it, Virginia.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what this studio is capable of doing. But Boom, how do you feel about this game? Did you go and watch some trailers? And do you think that this is something that you might be interested in getting, man?
Well, you know what? I did watch some of the trailers, and the game, again, I will say this: the game isn't going to be for everyone, but that does not mean that it's not going to be an award-winning title that is beloved, like Virginia was.
Sure.
I think that what the story they're trying to tell is unique. I think that if you are a fan of Telltale type of experiences,
and Life is Strange as well.
Well, yes, and you know what? That's a good on you for reminding me about that. Yes, if you are a fan of Life of Strange, and I think that's it's more closer to that than it is any of the Telltale for sure, especially about the artwork. Tell Me Why is another one that it reminded me of. For instance, I'm interested. Like, I didn't finish Tell Me Why. I got through the first release, and I have the other 2, and I have to finish the story because I actually was really interested in the 2 characters, the brother and the sister.
Yeah.
And there was some supernatural stuff there. There certainly was something there. And this over here, when it piqued my interest when they started talking about this potential for some supernatural behavior in this game. So it's a game that I'm going to play. But what's interesting is I believe this is going into Xbox Game Pass day and date.
Yeah, I believe it is as well. And of course, like with your game that you chose, the Ascent, there is no set release date yet. We do know, or we have been told, that it is coming in 2021. But yeah, and for it to go into Game Pass, tremendous value, right? It just, and I think it's going to be ultimately really, really good for this game. A lot of people, I really did not play Virginia, right? For a lot of people, it's a very unknown title. I picked it up on sale for, I think, $5 one year. And so, this going into Game Pass, I think, is really, really good for Variable State because more people are going to get their eyes on it, which I think is tremendous. But, you did say that you did play Virginia, correct?
Yes, I started it. I'm looking at the
Okay.
screenshots of it now. Yeah, I did start it. I didn't finish it, though.
Got you. Well, one thing that game did that impressed me so much is their storytelling was so unique in the sense that there was no dialogue at all, right? It was all environmental storytelling and storytelling told through the body language of the characters, right? And that was so interesting. And of course, they did that because the game was on a budget. They didn't have the money for voice actors, but they really pulled that off. And that's one thing that gets me really, really excited about The Last Stop is that they were able to make a very, very good game with no voice acting that told, a story that I really cared about and really, hit my heartstrings. So I can't wait to see what they are able to do with more funding and actual voice acting this time.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it was an indie darling, Virginia, and they made money because I think the game is basically available everywhere, and everywhere that it went, people were raving about it simply because it did tell a very, very unique and heartfelt story, right? And I think that they probably were able to acquire enough money from that release to produce what they're putting out now. And with the success of a game, obviously the production levels are going to potentially go up in the second one. And do we know if for sure if the game is fully voice acted for the the game you picked?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be stages like in every game where, there's no voice acting, you know what I mean? Along the lines of just, like intentionally, right? Like two characters are just looking at each other, to raise up suspense or something. But for the most part, yeah, it's supposed to be, fully voice acted the same way that Life is Strange or a Telltale game would be, from what I've from my research, from what I've seen with it. This is also another game that, like 12 Minutes, the game that I was talking about in the second episode of Xbox One-on-One, is published by Anna Purna Publishing. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
can never pronounce their name. But they seem to be publishing a lot of these smaller, more story-driven kind of games. And I think that that's probably also where quite a little bit of funding for this project came from as well.
I mean, it's certainly possible. There's no doubt about it. I mean, obviously, the studio made its name on its first game. I'm hoping that they see the same exact success as they saw with Virginia. And do you expect that with this title? Because obviously, if it's a new studio, Zemi, like for instance, we've never heard of them, people are going to be apprehensive. Well, it's in Game Pass, so I'll give it a shot, but they may or may not want to even bother looking into it simply because it's not their genre. But when you say, well, this game is from the makers of Virginia, people might be like, oh man, I remember Virginia, and now I have to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if enough people played Virginia for it to be, for them to really gain a lot of engagement just off of that title, right? Off of their past work with that. But where I think they're set to be the strongest is that it will be in Game Pass, that it is a game that is, somewhat similar to, Life is Strange or like these Telltale games, which a lot of people really, really enjoy. And I think, with a little bit of marketing, with some advertisement to let people, know, and then of course by word of mouth and it being in Game Pass, I think that it has great potential to be a very successful title for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think that what I think we're seeing with Xbox Game Pass, and I think I've seen this more times than not. And I think and you know what, let's get the chat involved in this. First of all, let me shout out the sheriff known as Lethal Papa, keeping these streets safe each and every podcast. Thank you for all of your hard work there, Lethal Papa. And of course, I want to thank wow, we got 130 people here. That's pretty cool. Again, I don't expect a lot of views for this show. because it is a little different. And I would imagine that when we start talking about Hellblade and Fable and, you know, Perfect Dark and a few of the other big games, that we may get more views or more people in the chat. But, you know, obviously, you know, this is an Xbox exclusive podcast, and you know what, we might in fact be talking about a game that you're like, oh, I didn't really know about that, but I do. What I want to do is, obviously, we have two small topics, which of course is Zemi's, which he went first, and we're talking about the Ascent in a little bit. But there are a lot of people asking, Zemi, did we see the new picture of Senua that was posted by Ninja Theory? And I do have that picture. I'm gonna load it up here. Give me a second to load this up, because I think we can, you know, before we talk about the Ascent, actually talk about the Senua picture, because it's pretty epic, at least in my opinion. And I think it does show a huge difference from what we saw on the Game Awards. But you know, if you while I do that, what else are you expecting from this game? First of all, you obviously did the research on it. How long is the last stop?
You know, I actually did not see any information on, you know, like the time span on the time spanned. You know, one thing that I did kind of keep seeing, you know, somewhat repeated, and I also kind of noticed this from the trailer as well, is that it is definitely a drama title, right? Like there's going to be, you know, it's like, I think it's definitely going to be a game that hits your emotions. And that's not too shocking, as Virginia kind of did the same thing. But you know, it does have, you know, cartoony graphics, very similar to what they did in Virginia, also very similar to Life is Strange. But it is, I think, going to have a somewhat deep story with emotional meaning, you know, and you know, an impactful story behind it. And I think that there is going to be quite a bit of drama in the game as well. Which I absolutely love whenever I'm playing, you know, any single player game.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Again, the wonderful thing about gaming, especially games like this, is that they're constructed so they could be digestible in whether that's 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, or 10 hours. And I love the fact that they can tell these stories from a perspective that's outside of what we usually get when we watch films, right? Like a 2-hour film has to really pack everything in 2 hours from starting to ending. But this over here could be told out in a way that's understandable to gamers. And like I said, I don't necessarily know if it's a game that I'm going to you know, play before another bigger title. Like, for instance, if Far Cry 6 came out at the same time as this, it would just fall into the backlog. And I would probably play Far Cry 6 before it. But that's not to say that the game isn't important and it doesn't tell an amazing story. Again, very similar to how I feel about The Medium. The Medium is telling, again, it's not even real survival horror. It's telling sure, there are horror elements. Some people might even consider them. You might even consider them to be terror. But it's but it's telling a deep story, and it does touch on some very serious real world things, especially with children. And it is, you know, again, it's if you appreciate a well-told story, The Medium is definitely a game you should check out. And obviously, this seems like The Last Stop is going to be telling a very powerful story. My only question is, are we playing the game multiple times to get the true ending? Or are we going to learn? Are we going to play each character at a subset time in the game?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. That information, you know, wasn't there. You know, I didn't see that whenever I was researching it, right? But you know, my guess is that it's probably going to, you know, alternate from one character to the next throughout the story of the game. Yeah, and as far as endings, you know, once again, it did not, you know, mention how many endings would be there. I know for Virginia, I think that there was 2 very different endings. And so I think there will be probably at least 2 or 3 different endings with this. I'm not sure, that's not, that wasn't readily available there. So I'm not completely sure as far as that goes. I think it's probably going to take place kind of on a chapter by chapter thing. And as the game progresses, you're going to be switching between all 3 of these different characters to get different perspectives. And and the entire story is interconnected, right? So, whether you're playing, Donna, John, and Mina are the 3 characters that you're going to be playing. And overall, their story is connected around this supernatural crisis that's happening in present day London, right? So yeah, I'm not sure how exactly, all of that plays out. That wasn't really there. I'm just theorizing off of what I've seen, what I know Variable State has previously done in their games, and what I saw, from the trailer.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, listen, it certainly seems very interesting to me. And like I said, if it's interesting to you, let us know in the chat. If you're into story-driven games like that. I mean, obviously, the tell me why type of titles do have a huge following. That series has a huge following. And I think that this is going to appeal. I mean, again, a game doesn't have to be about like we're watching on screen right now, that you're just breaking people's necks and shooting them up into their pieces. That it can tell a unique story and be done in a way where you're actually playing through a movie, which is what this seems like it's going to be doing. But before we get into the Ascent, I want to pause this for a second. Let me just run into my pewter over here, and let me just drop that on pause for a hot second. And let me go to this Senua picture. Let me bring up the Senua picture. Okay, this is the picture that everyone this is the picture that stopped the internet yesterday. This was posted by Ninja Theory. And listen, it's a little blurry. I didn't have enough time to get in and set it up the way I would have set it up if I'm going to use it for the show. But I saw a lot of people talking about it on the in the chat, and I wanted to address it because obviously this is not big enough for a topic per se, but I still think that it's relevant enough for a conversation. And look, here's the thing: if there is one particular game that everyone is looking for, it's Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 for a lot of reasons. Ninja Theory is, in my opinion, one of the finest mocap studios available. And you can challenge me on that. I think that the work that they're doing and what they have done in the past is nothing short of groundbreaking. So if we look at Senua here, this is, again, it's not the greatest picture, but it does tell enough story for me to make it into a conversation. And I can tell you right now that if this is what the graphics are going to look like, because this could be from a cutscene, we don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you. But Zemi, when you saw this posted, I mean, because you obviously don't like scary games, and I still can't believe you haven't played through Hellblade 1.
Oh, no, I have.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I played through it, yeah.
Excellent.
And let me tell you, Lord have mercy, that was creepy. It was so creepy. And I did it on stream, so I had friends.
So you had support.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie, I turned down the volume like a lot. Because it just got, and I mean, the game's not that long. Like Hellblade 1, I think it's like 8 hours. It took me like 3 or 4 days to beat that game. I had to take very long breaks in between. That was an experience, let me tell you.
That's fine. That's funny. That's funny you say that. Okay, so you played through 1 and you beat it. 2 is expected to be double in size, is what we're hearing. All right. Yeah. We don't know if it's going to be a more opened up to an RPG-esque adventure. I mean, is it going to be basically Hellblade 1 with newer graphics and a new story? I don't think so. I think that this game is going to be a much bigger experience. But what are your takeaways from the screenshot posted by Ninja Theory?
Well, I mean, hopefully it's not an open world game, because that's just more ways for me to get scared, right? There's just more places for me not to want to go. And it's a little upsetting how it is double the time, because that's more time that I'm gonna have to spend in utter fear. I am for sure gonna play it though.
Yeah, I mean, now here's the thing. Well, this is obviously meant to be a tease, right? This is obviously meant to be a tease by Ninja Theory to kind of give people, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. You know, how close do you think this game is, dude? Like, we don't really have. I mean, obviously, we saw at the end of 2019, right? 2020 wasn't a good year for everyone, not just Ninja Theory, but the entire world. So we don't know how much of the game was backed up. I will say that we do have it on good authority that mocap as a whole was basically stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't just gaming. I mean, that was film, that was everywhere because obviously of the pandemic. Do you feel that this is potentially one of those games that they haven't given a release date that shows up at the end of 2021? Or do you think that this is a 2022 game?
Yeah, I mean, it could show up at the end of 2021. I don't know. I kind of still think it's going to be 2022 early in the year 2022, because, you know, I think that they're going to have the latter, you know, side of this year covered, you know, with Halo Infinite, with indie games, and with some other potential surprises that we might have not even, you know, known about yet. Also, you know, Psychonauts, maybe that's gonna, you know, show up towards the, you know, later of the year, maybe, you know, or it might be maybe a summer release this year. But part of me really thinks that it is going to be early 2022. But, you know, I really don't know. I don't have you know, pretty much almost any experience in game development, right? I don't know, you know, what are the telltale signs of seeing a game is almost completed. Probably the worst person to be asking this question to. But, you know, it does look very, very good. It does look like, you know, we should see it on consoles tomorrow, kind of thing, right? Just by the pure detail, and I mean, look at the hair of like the strands of hair. I mean, she for sure needs to wash her hair. But
I love it. It's
you know, I mean, it is just so detailed. You just see like every single hair, and it's just, you know, it's, I don't know. I mean, if I was an artist, I'd have probably more things to say about it, but it just looks really realistic, very good. And I can't wait to play the game for that reason.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to take down the screen now and continue, of course, Hivebusters DLC. Yep. While we talk about give you my opinion on this. I'm going to be honest with you. We know that they have multiple projects in development, right? We know the horror one, which that's based on You in One Flat, which is one apartment. Project Mara, which we know that they're working on. Yeah, you never know. You could play it. You never know. I'm not counting you out just yet. I still think you should play the medium because it's not horror or terror. It's more of a psychic detective with some, you know, a strong story and a few horror.
I want to trust you. I really do. But I remember what you did to me on that ship in the Man of Medan game. I remember what you did to me.
I don't remember. So why don't you inform the audience of what exactly I did to you?
Poor Zemi, poor pitiful Zemi was going around looking for collectibles, and Boom told me to go to this table to look at this paper on this table, and I did that. And I was looking at the paper, and so I wasn't in third person, and then all of a sudden Boom's like, Zemi, don't move. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? And you're like, dude, that skeleton just grabbed your leg. And I'm just sitting there freaking the heck out. Okay? I'm just freaking out.
Oh my God, that's funny. You know, it's almost like teasing your little brother. It was rather funny.
I don't know if I can trust you. Whenever you say a game's not that scary, I don't know if I can trust you, man. I just don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, I think what you could do is at least watch some of the trailers of gameplay and see that it's not horror. It really isn't. Anybody in the chat agree with me that it's not really so much horror, that it is just really a detective story, kind of. I mean, she's not a police officer and she's not a detective by any stretch of the truth, but she does have these psychic powers, and she does do some things, you know, that make you go into another world. I mean, there are some chase sequences where you're running for your life and you're hiding and you're holding your breath, sure, but
don't do those well. I hate being chased in games. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. Well, yeah, you're just running, really. You know, you're just sprinting away, and as the thing is trying to grab you, you're ducking out of the way. I think you can handle it. That's just my opinion on it. But who knows? Who knows? But listen, folks, I want to get into why I picked the Ascent. And I want to bring up the video. And again, I hope I don't get a copyright claim. I don't have the music going. So, folks, what I'm going to do is give me a moment to stop this and then restart the Ascent. Hold on just a second. Let me go back into here. And I will bring up the Ascent right now for you folks. You find folks to see. And let me know what you think. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to play this right now for you. And we'll get into, of course, why I picked this game. Now, listen, the one thing that I'm a big fan of, and I have been since I was playing on PlayStation 2, was games like Diablo. Like, I never played Diablo 1 and 2. Like, I just didn't, because I don't really play on PC. But I did play games like Champions of Norath on the PlayStation 2. And you know what's crazy is that MrBooMStick, those are two of her favorite games of all time. We played those games for freaking hours. Like, she's a big into the Dungeons and Dragons kind of a thing. She doesn't play D&D, but she's into that mythology. She likes the wizard characters. And obviously that's what she always picks. So we're looking forward to Diablo 4 whenever that releases. But this game is, now you're seeing the same screen that I'm seeing, right? And whether you know it or not, Zemi, and I think this is really super important, is if you don't know who Neon Giant is, I hear you. Because I didn't know who Neon Giant was. But did you also know that they're a team of 11 people? That game that game that you're seeing on the screen right now was done by 11 developers that are a part of Neon Giant. That is unbelievable. The fact that they could do a game within the cyberpunk world, because that's really what it is crazy. And it's 4-player co-op. It does tell a story. It's a full-on RPG. You can do everything from designing the color of your hair to your armor to your perks to the weapons you use. I mean, it is a true Diablo clone in the best way possible. Besides, obviously, it's being developed by Neon Giant, but it's being published by Curve Digital. Basically, the Ascent is set on a world of Vels, and it's spelled VELES, where corporations own various districts. Playing an intritude worker, you go about your daily task until the mega corporation known as the Ascent Group collapses. This opens up a power vacuum as criminals and other corporations try to seize control. And here are some of the things that is interesting. And this is where it gets like 11. Are you sure 11 people did this? It can be played by a single player, which is dope, but it can also be played up to 4-player co-op. The Ascent runs, and this is where it gets crazy, 4K 60 on the Xbox Series X. That's pretty epic, man. I mean, from a team of 11 people? Wow. They're also currently experimenting, adding ray tracing to the mix. And there are augmentations to alter your character and play style. For example, you can deck your character with weapons or slim them down for a stealthy based play style. Like, there's actually stealth on top of you shooting the hell out of everything in front of you. The world is designed to be roamed freely with an emphasis on verticality, which is crazy because you really don't get that in like Diablo. The levels are not randomly generated, just enemy placements are. So you're always going to have, around a new corner, the corner that you just passed may or may not have an enemy, which is kind of cool. And it says here also, the developer Neon Giant has shared some of additional gameplay footage alongside, which is what you're watching right now. Zemi, you are one of the biggest Cyberpunk fans. I don't know if you're as big as my brother. My brother has officially put over 500 hours into Cyberpunk. He has officially gotten all of the endings that he wanted, including the secret one. For you, as someone that truly enjoyed and probably is still enjoying Cyberpunk to some extent, how excited are you for this new, different way into the Cyberpunk universe?
Okay, so I mean, straight up, you can't look at this game without seeing quality, right? This game may not be for you, and I hear you, but you cannot look at this game without seeing quality, especially whenever a team of 11 people made this, right? Um, for me personally, I am not a big isometric RPG, fan. I'm not the biggest fan of Diablo. I can already hear the boos coming now. Um, so the Ascent is not super high up on my list of games that I want to play. Um, but after saying that, I can definitely see why so many people are excited about this game, right? Um, to me, the isometric games just don't really allow for a high level, of immersion that I look for in games. Right? I just feel a little bit too distant away from my character, and I just don't feel that very high level of immersion that I really, really love to feel whenever I play uh, a multitude of games, but especially RPGs. And I think that's a big reason why it's not super high up on my list. Not saying I'm not going to play it. It's just I just don't know if I'm going to be able to play it for more than 1 or 2 hours without having the need to move on to something else. But the graphics look absolutely fantastic, especially whenever you consider um 11 people made it. And one thing that this game does that really does have me looking at it, has me interested in probably potentially jumping into it, depending on what else comes out around the same time, is you know the additions that they're bringing to this genre. Right, I've played Diablo, I've played other games like Diablo, but this game seems to be doing so many other things differently and new. For instance, you mentioned verticality. I watched that same video that you were just showing up on screen, and during a section of it, one of the female character, the player character, the female, she's actually ducked in behind cover and
Yes.
shooting over cover. I have never seen that in a Diablo like style game, right? I haven't. I'm not saying that it's new. I don't know if it's new. I'm not super familiar with this
No, as a matter of
genre.
fact, if you watch the video, they actually talk about that, how there is a there's an organic cover system, meaning that your character can duck and
Yes,
can shoot over cover.
and enemies can do it too.
Yeah, yes, they can. They
Yeah.
absolutely can. And you know something? That is something I don't think I've personally ever seen in a Diablo type game, whether that be in the actual Diablo itself or games that are made or built just like it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so like I'm the actual shooting mechanics and stuff, like blowing things up, having your big character that's specced out to just run in there and just blow crap up. That looks absolutely fun. Like I saw a guy like leaping up in the air and smashing down and blowing a couple of enemies to bits. That type of stuff looks really, really cool. The story has me interested. The graphics, yes. The only little thing that just has me, not as interested as what I want to be is the isometric perspective. That's the only thing that really has me on the edge about this game. I'm for sure going to try it. But I don't know if I'll be able to get past the perspective of the game. That's the only thing that's holding me back from being on your excitement level.
I mean, look, I'll say this. Not every game is for every gamer, but I think that again, we have to bring Game Pass into the conversation. Not because it's the greatest thing, not only because it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, not because it gives the Xbox gamer the best value in gaming that we've ever seen. Like I said, we're a bunch of spoiled MFs. I'll tell you that right now, because when you look at games big and small, and this one being a small game, it's made by 11 people. A lot of people don't even know who the hell Neon Giant Games is. Now, I'm like, I never heard of them. Some people may not even have heard of Curve Digital, who is publishing this game for that matter. But what I love about what we're going to potentially get over the course of the next few years is because of Game Pass, Zemi, this is the game you don't have to buy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, obviously, okay, you like the aesthetics, you like the gunplay, you like the RPG aspect, but you're not a big fan of the isometric views. But you know something? Because it has all of these compelling things that you do like, and because it's day and date in Xbox Game Pass, this might be a game that turns it around for you. Like, you might enjoy the banter. It's like you may not find the game as great single player, but if me, let's say Insipid Ghost and Mr. Badbit all decide one Thursday evening that we're just going to play the F out of this game, and we can play this game in 4-player co-op, and now we start talking a different conversation, because even though it's maybe not your first genre to go to, you might be like, wow, you know what? I had so much fun. I want to come back to this. And you didn't have to spend a dime other than your monthly subscription. I think that in itself is a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's a huge win for this this type of games, and just games in general, right? Because the way that I feel about isometric games is the way that somebody else feels about first person shooters or RPGs in general, or whatever it may be, or games like The Last Stop, like Life is Strange, or so on and so forth, right? And that's one of the greatest advantages of Game Pass, is that I can jump into this game, try it out, see if I enjoy it, because I am on the fences. If this game was releasing for 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks, honestly, how it would have, a long time ago, I probably wouldn't buy it, right? But because it is in Game Pass, I will be able to try it out, and you might 100% be right? I might fall into the story, fall in love with the story, fall in love with the gameplay, and absolutely love playing it co-op with friends. But if it wasn't for Game Pass, I would probably have never tried out the game. And we see this with all sorts of games, not just the Ascent. We see this with all sorts of games and all sorts of genres. It just depends on who you are as the player, right? So huge advantage that it will be in the Game Pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, our brother Smitty Smith drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says, "The Ascent reminds me of Cyberpunk meets Total Recall." Oh, that's a good. That's a great opinion.
Well,
absolutely.
Just to add this in as well, is what I see the Ascent doing is like the Ascent is doing to isometric RPGs like Diablo, to what Cyberpunk did to first person RPGs like Bethesda's Skyrim or Fallout, right? And I find that really, really interesting, how it's two Cyberpunk games that are really pushing the genre forward and adding in new gameplay elements that previously weren't in RPG style games.
That's very true. Yes, yeah. That is very true. I mean, again, it's what I love about Microsoft and what they're doing. They are giving us as gamers, and hold on, fuck, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to then reshare the video of the Hive Busters. I mean, let's start that up again. Hold on, we go. Gotcha. Okay, folks, there you go. Let's continue on with Hive Busters. Yeah, I really enjoy. First of all, I want to say this, and I really want to get the opinion of the chat, because obviously, again, this was launched as a 12-part limited series, right? We're already through week, the first 4 episodes. And of course, if we don't have an audience, Zemi, well, then we have nothing to talk about. I'm interested to get the people's opinion, and we'll do that. And obviously, we'll continue talking about some stuff as well that have come across the desk. Is this type of show something you're into? We have almost 200 people here. A lot of them are tuning in because obviously they enjoy, the conversations we have. But do you want this type of programming to continue for this particular show, or do you want it to be a news program, just a smaller dose of news? Where like the Xbox Factor podcast on Thursday, where we talk about 3 and 4 topics, here we just talk about particular games. I'm interested to know, because I like the idea of this show. I don't know if the idea is going to hit with people. And again, obviously, I have done many, many things on YouTube that have failed. So it's, Oh, Master Clowns X3 drops of Master Clowns. You are a very generous a member of the community. Thank you so much. He drops an outstanding $20 of chances. Good afternoon, Boom and company. Love this topic. Enough said. Well, thank you, dude. I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to doing things on this particular show just a little bit different because everyone could talk about news. And you know something, I don't mind doing it, but I think that I have enough programming to give you, the audience, enough news. Whether we're talking about something going on at PlayStation, something happening at Xbox. Now, granted, if there's something like, let's say, for instance, Zemi, when we woke up this morning, they bought Capcom. Well, you know, obviously the show that we had written is going to go into the into the shitter, so to speak, and we're going to be talking about that. But I like getting back to talking about games. I hope that you do, and I'll say this: our DMs are open. Right, Zemi and I DMs are open. We love interacting with the community. If there's a particular upcoming title that you want us to cover, hit us up in the DM before the show goes live. I mean, obviously, you need to give us a couple of days to do the research and get all the information. But if there's a particular game, even if it's a big one, like if you wanted to talk, if you wanted us to, you know, spend half an hour talking about what we, you know, our excitement for Halo, we'll do it. But you know, that's what community interaction is really all about, and we hope that you will continue to support this show. But you know, obviously, one of these smaller topics, and again, I could have saved this for you know, the Xbox Factor podcast with Halo celebrating its 20th year anniversary. You're going to get some wacky crossovers, and we've seen one that was posted on and I sent it to you, Zemi, as well. Elon Musk, obviously, we know who that guy is.
Yep.
Billionaire. He makes Tesla. Very, very unique vehicles. Some are very strange. There was a conversation between him and Xbox where we might see a warthog come into real life, and he might be making it. That is strange for sure. I got news for you. I never thought that would come to fruition. But the question I have for you, Sam, is would you buy a warthog?
Would I buy a warthog? No, I would not buy a warthog. I don't think, you know, but I will say this. I love this type of stuff. This type of marketing, I absolutely love. I find hilarious, and it's just so you know, attractive as me as a consumer. It really gets me into the mood to buy you know, Halo things, or to watch the Halo TV show, or to play the next Halo game, whatever it may be. Or, you know, I might buy like a small little you know, replica of a warthog, but I most certainly am not going to buy like the full vehicle.
I would love to. I'd love to drive around the New Rochelle, New York, in the snow in a warthog. I think that would be so freaking. Yeah, it would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome. It'd be kind of expensive though.
It would.
But, you know, I do like this type of marketing. We saw it before with Xbox making those refrigerators and sending them to influencers, right?
Yeah.
You know, to kind of, you know, in some ways making fun of themselves, you know, with the whole refrigerator meme that was popular there for a little bit. I love this type of stuff, and I hope something you know, does come out of it in some way, some shape, some form.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we're going to start seeing it as we get closer. I think once we hit June, we are going to see the marketing really ramp up for Halo Infinite. I like the monthly updates that they're doing. I don't necessarily think that they need to do that personally. Oh, look, my whole team is down. Holy cow. Another up. Okay. But yeah, I think this is a unique thing. Do I think it's going to really happen? Well, I don't know, but I would love to see what a real warthog made by Elon Musk looks like. To be honest, I really would. But listen, again, we're closing in on the hour. This show is only meant to be an hour long, and obviously we hit the two topics, and we actually talked about the extra Senua topic, which I cannot wait for Hellblade 2. I'm probably going to play through Hellblade 1 again before I play 2, just to you know, refamiliarize myself with the lore, because I played it a while ago Actually, I first played it on the PlayStation, and of course, I played through it. And I think I'm missing one achievement, which is aggravating as F. To get the full 1,000. Did you go back and did you play through it once, Zemi, or multiple times to get
Yeah,
achievements?
I think once was enough for
Was
me.
more than enough for you?
Yeah, it was enough for me. No, I mean, look, I absolutely loved the game. I thought it was fantastic, a tremendous amount of fun. I also thought it was creepy. I also did not like getting chased by the big fire monster, or the jump scare, the little jump scares that would happen whenever I went through a doorway, and then big demon man was sitting there with a sword, and all the creepy whispering. I think once was good. You know, yeah, I don't think I need to go for a second time. I'll play Hellblade 2, though.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Master Clowns blesses me once again with an additional $20 super chat and says, "Throw another round of appreciation." Well, dude, thank you so much. You don't have to, but I definitely appreciate it, brother. Your generosity is just incredible. Listen, folks, this has been again a smaller show that is meant to talk about two games. And I'm very interested to know what your thoughts and feelings are of this new series. Again, it is limited for now. We're going to do 12 episodes, and then we're going to reevaluate it at the end of April. I believe that's when we're going to be running into February, March. Yeah, we should run into the first week or so of April. And again, if it's hitting, if I'm getting the views and people are tuning in and they're enjoying the content, then we will continue it. But we may add new stuff. But if you have thoughts and opinions about this new series added to Double Barrel Gaming, please DM me. Be polite. Otherwise, I'll just delete it, because obviously I get some really wacky messages that I try to respond to everybody. But if you're, an a-hole, well, then you're not going to get any play from me, because there's no reason to do that. Especially when Zemi and I and many, many, many millions of content creators go out of their way to provide content. You at least got to be fair, the way that you talk to people. But with that said, Zemi Games, why don't you tell everyone where they could reach out to you, potentially strike up a conversation, and more importantly, tell everyone about the Constant Gamer website you got going on, some of the things you've been doing with it, and a few of the quizzes that are really popular with the folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically the main place to just kind of check out and see everything that I'm doing right now is constantgamer.com. It's my website. We have a handful of writers. Boom is a writer. And we have a 2-3 other guys that write for us as well. And it's basically just a gaming news and review website like IGN, like Kotaku, like GameSpot. The only difference is that we do try to stay more objective, more factual, and we try not to mix, what is actually happening with what we want to happen, right? We really separate opinions from facts, which a lot of gaming media just kind of tends not to do anymore. So we're really excited about constantgamer.com. I think it's a great site. And, I think it's, a very important site to have, at least, in gaming media, to maybe exit from some of the console wars and tribalism that goes on, and just stay factual what actually happened. But in addition to gaming news and reviews and that type of stuff, we also do have a community section where we do fun quizzes for the community. Boom, he posted a Resident Evil quiz that is a lot of fun. And I posted a Elder Scrolls quiz, and we're going to have more quizzes coming to the site soon. I think I'm going to be doing a Mass Effect quiz. I think Boom was talking about doing another Resident Evil quiz. It's just a fun little site to check out. And then from the site, up in the top right-hand corner of the site, you can find links to all of our socials. You can click on the link, go to our YouTube channel, go to our Twitter panel, or Twitter page. Lord have mercy, I can't speak. Boom, help me. Yeah, and you can just find all of our socials there. And if you are someone who's, might be interested in writing for a gaming news website, feel free to, click on the contact us page and send in a small little application with a writing sample of yours. And I'll definitely be in touch to get you on the team to write for the site.
Oh, well, great stuff as always. And yes, definitely check out constantgamer.com. I think that it's a small site for now. I think there's some big things coming for Zemi and that particular site. And I'd love to see the support from the community, especially when you're getting, again, you can go anywhere to read about gaming, but we know the places to stay away from. And unfortunately, we've seen the Kotakus and the IGNs and the GameSpots and a few of the other bigger sites just really let down the community with the way that they do their writing. Unfortunately, I understand it's a business, but they sometimes take it too far, and they go out of their way to dump on a box or another. And I don't like. That's why I stay away from journalism. There are sites obviously I use for my content creation, but I like their writers. I like and I trust them. Whereas I completely lost trust and faith in a lot of the ones I just mentioned. And what I love about what Zemi's doing over there is he's gathering a group of writers that are going to talk about gaming, about what's fun about gaming, and keep to facts instead of opinions. Opinions are like, what, everyone has one. Well, I like the way that he's doing his site, and I think you would as well. So definitely check out constantgamer.com. And everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this small new program, new addition to, of course, Double Barrel Gaming. If you're new to the channel, of course, I say welcome, and please consider subscribing. If you are here already and subscribe, please consider hitting that like button. It really, really does help navigate the algorithms of YouTube. And obviously, the more likes, the better I'm going to be able to get my stuff into this algorithm and obviously grow the channel. We are currently 2,600 subs away from 10K. That's, for me, it seems like a lifetime. I know we're early in the year, and I would like to wholeheartedly think I'm going to hit 10K by the end of the year. That's my goal. If I only hit 10K by the end of 2021, it is going to be a big, big deal for me, because that means that I will have hit that in under 4 years. And that's hard to do on YouTube. So if you are new, please consider subscribing. And of course, I'll close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me. And I think now more than ever, it's super important. Treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Xbox One-on-One.